Let's take a look at the leaderboard. Cause like I know that people are using. See, it's a Vala. I mean, this guy only has 3.6, but he is using COE. Ah, he has this. Okay. So it's basically the COE, and he has this. I would have had one of these, but I got the stupid rollback. So basically, he is. Yeah, so I need that 15. Means I need, which means I need that 15. So that 15 is important. Because even he did it in 1-2, which tells me it's also a fish, but at the same time, he does have reasonable stuff in comparison to the other guy. The only weakness is his gloves. Well, his crit isn't good because he's playing the Bariza way. The true Bariza way, you actually don't need that much crit. And my main gems are like higher than these except this Taeguk. And I feel like this Taeguk is pretty suspicious because he has a 132 on a 131 clear at the time of 1200 something Paragon, which tells me he played a group play before he got this done. Yeah, that's I mean, isn't that fair to say? I mean, obviously I'm playing the game wrong because I should be playing Z. But like it's fair to say, right? If you completed it with a 132 Taeguk, it clearly states that this guy has a Z somewhere, whether it's ZDH or Z Barb or Z Neck, one of those three. Yeah. So there's that. Um, let's see. Keep going. Okay, this guy has the cooldown. Oh, this guy has the elite damage increase 6%. He's using Fortress with Leech, and he has a 4.1, and he did the 121 trick. Yeah, he's doing the 121 trick. See, I love looking and analyzing people's um augment styles, and I think this guy has like, oh, okay, he's the 2.1. So see, naturally, I feel like at 130s, this makes more sense in comparison to these guys. These guys are like hard fished, but there's one of them has a possibility because of his primal gloves quadfecta. Like if you play it right, that's a huge amount of damage if you play it right. So this guy has that 121 that I play with. Very nice shoulders. I mean, like his gear is looking like very close to mine. Okay, wait, what? Wait a minute. Okay, so I can only assume that he did this 1.45 is because he, like in his pushes up to this point, okay, I think that what he was doing is he's like backtracking to the pylon, and then he has nothing ahead. So in the event that he has nothing ahead, then he won't lose time moving forward from a backtrack play. Because you don't take this when you can have a bigger health pool for your fortress shields. Not that it's any much bigger with 15% if your base isn't high enough, but like you can choose between the elite reduction here or that 15% life, and he chose neither. So basically, in his pushes, he's doing a lot of backtrack play that he values not getting that hatred hunger, which is where my vault comes in sometimes. And also when I was doing the augment gem at the end before I started pushing, I also felt the hatred issue. So he must be doing that. That's the only reason to do this. Because if his 15% life doesn't matter, if he's not going to rip anyway, but the benefit of the 15% life is for the fortress. So he has to be playing those weird backtrack pull plays that causes him to have that hatred hunger in order to pick that. All right, so this guy's simplicity is making more sense. Yeah, it's closer to the push. So I, I would say overall, this person's push is pretty well done. The only interesting thing is his chess piece. I think it's I think his push is validated. It's just the chess piece has an interesting concept to it. Yeah, he does the 121 trick that I do. Yeah, see, look at that. Dual 630 plus. He did a 121. So if we look at what I did, right? The reason why I did a 120 instead of a 121 is that same marker. It's not because I don't want to make a 121 here, which is not difficult at the time. My the stylistic play is because this one rolled 561 vitality. If it rolled 600, like, above 600 vitality, I would have done a 121. So stylistically, he did the same thing. And same with my helmet. He got a decent helmet. He got a 970 dex. So that deserves a 121. So the way that that guy did the thing with the 121 here and the 121 there makes total sense to me. Stylistically. See, the same rule of thumb applies here. He got above 635 for the dex and vit, so it's a 121. The only down thing that I don't agree with is that it's a 183. But at that point, I think he just didn't care. I think he didn't care for this one because he couldn't get a better ancient at the time, and he had spare gems, spare augment gems, and he already got a 121 ready, and he was waiting and waiting and waiting the whole time. So he just plugged this one in. I can almost think of what this person did. So now this one, the 121. The reason why he did it is because it's Fizz Res and 50%. So I can see the 121 here, even though it doesn't match up with the 556 that I was talking about. But there are two other benefits that make sense to it. So this 121 is okay. So he set a rule where it's all 121, but his reasoning is pretty close to what I do. Now the better question is whether he just jumped ahead and did 121 right away, or that he actually went from 100 to 121. So that's the only thing I can think of that would be a different, if that. But otherwise, I think this guy did fantastic. I think it's deserving. Okay, 1700. Okay, really nice headpiece. However, he did a 120 here. So it means that his 120 is the primal slash long term. So all the 120s. Wow, he actually got to reduce elite 11 and physical. This guy has really strange augment now. Yeah, this guy augments the same way as a lot of other people do, progressively. Progressive augments. I progressive augments, I have an issue with it because when you do progressive augments, you are climbing the leaderboard. I think this guy was climbing the leaderboard slowly at the time, like every few days, I think. Um that's the only reason you would do progressive augmentation. I think that progressive augmentation isn't good if you're not chasing the leaderboard or like keeping yourself on the leaderboard at all. And I mean progressive augmenting is where you get these 113, 106, 101, uh 110 is fine. 105 is fine. See the 101, the 101, 106, 101, like 101, like these are like progressive, and I think and this 113 here, like it reveals that this person does the progressive augmentation, and then anything primal or long term, or maybe at the time now that he got newer pieces, he's just going to augment 120s because he needs 120s to push higher. So he gave up on the progressive augmentation because he just needed at least 120s now. But so if I were to look at his um if I go and look at his profile now, okay, let's see what his augments are. Did he stop playing? 1779. So he only played 60 paragons past it, which means he probably didn't do much. So yeah. So 112 on the boots. Did I see a 112 on the boots earlier? Did I see the 112 on the boots earlier? Okay, I forgot to look at the boots. But so, and he did this 1738 and he's 1779. So he hasn't played since. I think he's taking a break. Um so yeah. So he didn't even re-og. And why I was looking at his current profile instead not and not just look at the next person on the list is because when you do this progressive augmentation, um, so if you think about it, like you're already doing the 120s, right? You're doing the 120s. The good reaugs are the ones that you replace below 110. But once you try to do a 120 on here and a 120 on here, it is every little bit counts. I get that, but you're gaining so marginally that you might as well just paragon up, right? That's the downside of the progressive augmentation. So unless you're jumping you know, like doing the 125 now. Let's say if I were this person, I would jump to 125. And if he jumps to 125, then it's okay. Like for the ones that he's replacing, I mean re-auging, the reaug step would be a 125. Anything below a 110 or 110, anything 110 and below should be a 125 now. And if he does a 120 for each, then it's not worth it. Because it's not worth the time. The speed run is easy, but per gem is not worth it. For increasing your speed efficiency, it's marginal increase. For dexterity, it's also marginal increase. But for the push value that he's doing with the 131 already, it's not worth it. It has to go 125 plus, which is why I'm holding back on my fortress. Go ahead and look at another person. Okay. Okay, 120. Has that one has an auged. He was still deciding. See, this guy did a 125. Okay, so this season is interesting. This is this is also something I was talking about. I think yesterday or the day before yesterday, I was gear checking somebody, and I was talking about uh max discipline again. It's a thing that I have to do with special recipe and shadow power gloom and stuff. Um, so this season is really interesting. I can see why he kept the 1.5 hatred regen and needing the maximum discipline, because if you are playing the proper way, which is special recipe, um, with the Bariza, because when we play, unless you're secondary here, even he got lucky with the secondary here. Imagine if he didn't have the 10 max discipline there. Using Bariza from the traditional God DH with the two weapons, you get a chance to have both max discipline, which means you have so much more, right? Well, one stack more. And he got lucky with this. Well, he didn't get lucky with the rapid fire part of it, nor the resource cost necessarily. It's so marginal. But he got lucky with the 10 max discipline with the 600%, and that's why he's using it. That he here decides to go with the max discipline there instead of reduce elite. He values the point of max discipline to press one extra time or even 1.5 to 2, depending on how you time your focus mind. It's almost a 2 because 8.5, well, 8, right? And then he has like a resource cost reduction here, which is going to be like making it a 7.5 or 7 or something like that, or even lower, um, to the point where, ooh, I guess he struggled with gloves. Uh, yeah, so I think that he did a 12 here so that he can cast almost 2 extra times a special recipe. That is the reason. So I can see this. I can see this. It's valid. So he did the 125 thing that I was just talking about relative to the push. So this covers my 125 theory. It's not my theory anyway. It's just a theory that based on what I was getting at, the 125 thing. So he hasn't even ogged this because he's kind of like me. When I like go down to like the last item, I just keep thinking that I'll get a better one anyway. So like holding and holding back. So during when he did this push, he was like, I'll just keep trying and trying, and then if I really can't make the push, then I'll aug it for real. But I don't think I want to aug it unless it's a different one because it's a 67 for hit damage. I can totally see this not getting auged. The interesting part is he decides to use dexterity gems though. I think he was trying to get a breakpoint damage. I think he was trying to reach like how like I'm like almost 13 million in the cold. I think he's trying to do something like that, and that's the reason why he did it. Because when you're pushing this high, unless you're like getting those mob types that don't matter, you you almost can't get away with it unless your Paragon is like over Paragon. Then you can get away with doing both decks. Mixing isn't bad. Last season I mixed. Mixing isn't bad. Mixing it has a lot to do with getting to a break point where you want it to be. And when I say break point, it's more like just the difference between getting a rounded damage number or not. So say last season I did 3 red gems and 2 yellow gems for my Firebird. The reason is because I got close to 76% armor. Yeah. So once I reach 75 to 76%, I can just go back to having some damage, and this is what he did. Going back to damage instead. Knowing that, yeah, I don't want to analyze too much on people who did that. Okay, this is unlucky, but he's using it anyway. I guess it's because of lightning resist. Wow, this guy lacks vitality. Oh man. Wow. I just said it. This guy lacks vitality. Like where? Wow. This guy's playing like no vitality. So he's using elusive, which makes sense for his lack of vitality. He's using stricken, and he has 140, 134, 134, 16, 16 on a 131 push. You know what that means, right? You know what that means, right? Carried by gems and playing in the meta groups. Because he doesn't have enough vitality to support it. I feel like either his all his Paragon points go to vitality, or he somehow is playing it really rough edged because he's using Dex jams as well on top of it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think it's both fished and yeah, carried by gems. Because I was like, when I looked at his chest piece, I could already tell what was going on. I even moused over to his pants right away and say he has lack of vitality. And then I went on to look at his helmet and it's lack vitality. Now, the interesting thing about this is that I haven't reached to an armor breakpoint to know how much reduction this is. Because he is playing with armor reduction. Like, that's the only thing I can see this happening is the armor reduction. So, physical res and armor reduction. If he even has enough physical res to make that work. Yeah, he has physical res there, lightning res. So he has like 2 to 3 physical reses and some lightning reses. So I think yeah, he's playing the armor breakpoint style, which is very interesting. It's an interesting style. Just not sure about the armor breakpoint, because the way that he played. So he didn't play upon resist. So let's just say these resists are like 800 to 900. I think his resists are probably like very close to 1k each. But then he has armor value probably like 92% with a really high fizz res. So his fizz res is probably like close to mine and his lightning is close to mine. So what he did was fizz and lightning with an armor value of 92%. And that could work, honestly. That's actually interesting. But then I don't know what his health value, because he's 1616 Paragon, which means he has to have put like 3k, at least 3k to reach this. Yeah. Oh well. So